feel overwhelming keeping your family safe online. Google Family Link helps you create online boundaries for each of your kids, like setting how much screen time is
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Purple and Gold Bars. I'm your host, Supreme. Well, it's been an eventful Tuesday, and we're going to start our game preview with a bit of trade rumors. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Apparently, there are some wild trade speculations going on right now that Matthew Stafford might be coming to the Vikings. Let me show you the tweets. There we go. So Jack Settleman, basically, he owns, or he's a CEO of a news publication, I guess, 50,000 subscribers or followers on X. He tweeted this earlier, about a couple hours ago, that the Vikings are in serious trade talks with the Vikings for Matthew Stafford. Apparently, over the offseason, there was talks between both organizations to make a swap at quarterback because they felt apparently comfortable to move forward with Sam Darnold as a successor to Matthew Stafford. What gives it a little bit of credence, though, a little bit of like push, because this guy's really 50,000 subscribers. Like, what do we know? To me, this is still just a rumor. There's nothing really confirmed. I don't see Pelissero picking this up or like any of the guys that we know that are going to be talking about this immediately, right? Nobody's come forward, right? Except for these guys. But Jake Ellenbogen, or Bogan, he follows the Rams. He's like a content creator for or like a fan sports that focuses on the Rams, and he said that what he's heard, not in regards to this trade or coming up, is that in general they were interested in Sam Darnold as a successor to Matthew Stafford. So it gives a little bit of weight to this rumor. And then I guess the last piece of speculation or I guess evidence that you can kind of like pair up with is that the Rams have made it clear that they are willing to trade Cooper Kupp, right? So with that came out earlier this morning, but way before all this stuff. So this could just be one of those situations where someone is trying to capitalize on the setup that potentially makes, because, you know, if they're willing to trade Rams and it's an open, valid like report, then a lot of dominoes can kind of fall into place if somebody makes the right rumor, right? And so this kind of lines up in that area. There's a little bit of credence to that. Cooper Kupp, them wanting to move on, kind of indicates that the Rams are considering just moving on and starting their rebuild maybe earlier than expected. You know, at this pace, they're in the way, in line to get a draft, like a lottery pick. So I'm not sure. If you're a Rams fan, I don't know what you're thinking about this. Like, Stafford brought you guys a Super Bowl, right? So like, I don't know how that makes you feel. I don't know how it'd make me feel. I'm really torn with this rumor, because like, it doesn't make sense in a lot of ways, like, because Sam and the Vikings have been playing extremely well. In my opinion, we've only seen continued growth in every single game against some of the best rosters and teams and even players in the league, right? We've been able to show what we can do in a multitude of different ways. You know, the most recent being against the line, where everybody was like, well, now you got to prove what you do when you're trailing. And Sam Darnold and the Vikings were able to come back and put points in the second half. And in crucial drives late, after the defense did their part, they went down and put up field goals. Ideally, as a fan, going into the playoffs, I'd want that to be cleaned up, to make sure that those drives are actually finishing with points, because had that happened, the game would have ended up a little bit different. Maybe there would have been a little bit more pressure on Jared Goff and the Rams. Maybe that desperation situation that the Vikings have done so well in the last 5 games, to put teams late in games desperate. And where Jordan Love threw an interception, and we weren't able to create that pressure, and the Lions were able to take control in that last drive and we couldn't come up with the stop. So, in my opinion, the loss does suck. It would be really nice to be 6-0, increasing our probabilities to make the playoffs and increasing our probabilities to hit first round bye. But at the same time, I'm only seeing continued growth from week to week. You know, when we first started struggling in the second half of the 49ers game, the question was, what's going on? Are we stalling? We couldn't really do anything except for kind of like kill some drives and make a lot of defensive plays until when we really needed to do something. That's when the offense came alive and we came away with one drive, right? And then in the same situation against the Packers, we needed to come up with more than what we got, but we got the bare minimum, right? And it just showed growth in the way that we were moving the ball in the second half. And then yesterday's game, or Sunday's game against one of the best teams in the league, they were able to put points in early in the second half and go back and forth, right? In that situation, my heart kind of sank a little bit, but I was happy because I was like, this is the situation that we need to happen, and I have faith that the Vikings are going to mount a comeback, because if we don't, then there's some areas of concern that are a lot deeper, that maybe drinking the Vikings Kool-Aid is clearly hiding or keeping in my blind spot. And sure as hell, right after that, we started mounting a comeback. We started putting points together. And yes, when we desperately needed a defensive stop, Brian Flores was able to steal away that pressure that Ben Johnson was doing and reapplied it to the Lions and was able to come up with some crucial stops. If we were, 3 or 4 weeks down the road where we've put more practice into scoring in later drives and being more efficient, because from going from, getting 1 or 2 good drives a second half to having points and then even 2 crucial drives coming away with field goals, it's improvement, right? And maybe we can I expect that with that improvement over the next few weeks, we're going to end with the ability to put more points up in the second half, which is the most important for a team that's going to be going to the playoffs, because we need to make those type of plays going forward, especially in the playoffs. Hats off to the Lions. They played an incredible game. It was a back and forth. It starts off with Brian Flores and a bunch of 3 and outs, and the Vikings taking the lead, and then the Lions responding with a lot of pressure and taking that pressure off themselves and putting it right back on the defense, and then the defense coming back late and flipping it again. It was a heavyweight fight. It was like two of your favorite boxing or fighters that just decided to stand in the middle and throw punch after punch, and just whoever stood at the very end won. And as a football fan, as a Vikings fan, as any kind of fan, I think you appreciate that type of game, and that sort of progress and that sort of game is what gives me confidence that we're on the right path still. It sucks because it would be nice for us to overachieve, and in those situations where we want not only the learning experience from the situation, but we want the win, it didn't happen, right? Like, it doesn't happen very often when young teams kind of zig and zag perfectly all the way to the end. It's very uncommon, and it would have been really nice. And had we gotten blown out or not performed, or in that second half when I expected the team to mount a comeback, we didn't, then I'd be disappointed or upset. But all in all, after a game like that, I don't think any fan would be upset, because we saw highlight plays the entire game. There wasn't any lulls. It was like nail biter between back and forth. So it was a good situation to be in as a Vikings fan. And it's weird that this trade speculation or this trade rumor has surfaced right after a loss, after the Rams have indicated that they're willing to move on from Kupp. It doesn't really sit well to me, with me, because I really enjoy, or really I really like Sam Darnold's story. You know, he's someone that's been knocked down and he just continues to get back up and keep moving forward. And that's what you know, as a parent, that's what you want to teach your kids. As someone that wants better for themselves or growth, whether that's in your personal life, your love life, or your work life, that's the kind of approach that you want to take, and that's what we're seeing, right? So yeah, and there was a lot of, regardless of the way the game went down, like I'd love to jump into my jaded self and say things like, well, you know, had Harrison Phillips, if that fumble wasn't lost, or maybe if all those 4 fumbles that the Lions had, if only one of them had gone our way, maybe we would have, you know, or if we had just made some different plays or whatnot, we would have blown them. Like I don't like to think like that. I like to look at what actually happened, and what we got was 2 of the best teams in the NFL going toe to toe and not backing down. So it gives me confidence for us, because that may have been an NFC championship preview, right? It could have been a divisional match preview. It felt like a playoff game to me in the moment. It just had all those ingredients, and so it's weird to want to move on from Sam, if that is the case. I'm in Ontario, Canada. But yeah, interesting. Would I be happy? Because like, you know, I'm really happy with Sam's journey and story, that I want to see his reclamation project completed and see him win a Super Bowl at the end, because that'd be like the total it's like a movie at that point, right? So I am still kind of like a romantic in that way, where I want to see the Cinderella story. I want to see the guy that's not supposed to win it all to win it all, right? So to pull the plug on that and take that opportunity away from him feels a little weird, but at the same time, as a Vikings fan, I don't want to sacrifice a potential Super Bowl for good feelings and good wishes for Sam. That's a great guy. The rumors are that Sam would also get a like it just doesn't make sense too, but you know, like if Sam were to go to the Rams and have a long-term contract, and it was kind of like a sign and trade deal, you know, that'd be that kind of make it feel better. It just doesn't sit right. I don't know, something just, I can't put my finger on it why it doesn't feel right. But outside of the fact that Sam's been playing great, and to me he's shown improvement, and I have about 3 weeks now, I have literally zero worries when it comes to Sam. I think it was confirmed after the Jets game, probably, because even when he had a terrible game, statistically speaking, he was able to do enough and get us in a position to win at the very end and force a situation in which Aaron Rodgers had to go for that touchdown, which created that high pressure situation, which created that turnover for the defense. So for me, I don't think it's real. I don't know what Kwesi or the organization's trains of thought are. If this is a logical thing in their mind space as a fan, I'm thinking we're 5-1. We've had one of the best starts against some of the hardest teams in the league, and why make a drastic change now? That's why it feels like this tweet and like these speculation rumors are clickbait to me, you know. But would I be happy, you know, like a top 5 quarterback? Of course, but there's issues, right? Like, we're having interior line problems, and with an immobile quarterback, do we also have to then go make a blockbuster trade for someone in the O-line, or are we 1,000% sure that Dalton Risner is going to be the solution so Matt isn't in trouble? I really like what Sam does when the pocket breaks and he has to run. He's deceptively fast. I don't know. Let me get caught up a little bit with the chat here, because you guys are going a little crazy. I agree that I feel like I think it's all like perfect timing when it comes to, oops, where it says that there's zero truth to this, because it feels like if I was gonna be a clickbaiter or someone that's gonna try to drive that kind of narrative, as soon as I see the Rams are willing to move on from Cooper Kupp, and it's a confirmed report, I'm thinking, who else can I bait into thinking that they're willing to trade? If Aaron Donald was still on the team, you know what I mean? They'd say, "Oh, Aaron Donald is he's on the move," or something ridiculous, right? Because it makes sense, and for fans that are kind of upset after a loss, it seems easy to cling on to. Two, none of the main big names have picked it up, so I agree. Yeah, 5-1 team changing a QB is seems like a joke. I think, Derek Knight says Darnold is a special boy. I think he's proven to that up to date. I feel like some people are always like, what happens if he drops that back down to Jets Darnold and this and that? And I'm like, but the thing is that through his reclamation project in the last year and everything that's happened tonight, he has clearly shown that he's increased that average, that mean, right? So, and then on top of that, KOC and the scheme and everything is helping him play a little bit above that, right? So it's like this same old adage, like, why fix something that's not broken, right? That's what they're talking about. But let me see here. Toronto Argonauts with Chad. I'm not a big CFL fan. That's a wild take, I know, Canadian. Herschel Walker, Cooper Kupp. Yeah, the next thing is gonna be the Vikings are trading JJ and Sam for freaking Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Like, it's gonna be like the crazy rumors, like, and it's expected, right? Because of the situation. It's so easy to clickbait if you're some of these channels. That's why I kind of wanted to address the rumors, and also at the same time look at a little bit of the plausibility that's causing people to kind of run wild with it. I might take some stock in it when a real source says something, or even if it happens, but I doubt that's going to happen. I think what's really going on in Minnesota is they're actually focused on this short week. There's no time, I don't think, for them to be negotiating or thinking about this, or even have anything happen for it to be a plausible thing. We're on a short week. We have a few days to get ready. I don't even think we're dressing. I think we're just basically doing walkarounds all week just to allow our players to recover. So, yeah, for me, there's really no credibility to this, but it's quite the speculation. But what really matters as a Vikings fan is this upcoming week and this upcoming Thursday matchup against the Rams, right? The Rams, or Sean McVay's already led on or said that Cooper Kupp's in line to start this week. I don't know if there's a little bit of the mind games there to make us kind of worried and prepared for them to have Cooper, and as well as without. There could be a little bit of that. These trade rumors might also be mind games from their end to try to get, I don't even know, it'd be pretty dirty and really underhanded by an organization, but wild nonetheless. But what really matters is that we got a team that's coming off, one of the best teams in football, that's coming off a 2-point loss after doing a lot of things right and failing to capitalize in a few moments, right? To me, the two biggest factors in that game was the fact that the Lions didn't have Aiden Hutchinson, and we didn't have to game plan around Hayden Hutchinson like most defenses do, because he's one of the very few defensive players in the league where offensive coordinators are actually game plan around them. Like, they don't do that for Micah Parsons or Myles Garrett or TJ Watt or Nick Bosa, right? Like, really, really good players. But Hutch, he is a massive problem. And I thought with him not being there, it would give us enough of an edge to be able to hang in there and squeak out a one possession win. The second factor being home field advantage, and it did play a factor. We just did not capitalize in the moment early in the game after the Lions were really having a hard time with US Bank Stadium, immediately right after, we shot ourselves in the foot. We were taking false starts and messing up drives and basically keeping it neutral, where it was dire for us to capitalize on those, so that we had the cushion in order to maintain that pressure on the Lions. So it changed their game plan a little bit, or made them second guess what they were doing. And those two factors, I thought, would kind of squeak us that one possession game. Regardless, what an incredible game. And now we're facing the Rams that are starting to get healthy, even though they are still pretty banged up. A classic trap game for the Vikings, but it is what it is, and we're looking to bounce back. I think that our talented roster, coaching is going to, help us maybe get an ugly win. Matthew Stafford and his arm, he is a gunslinger. We witnessed what he did to the Lions in week one, after the whole everybody going down in the second half, and he still managed to bring that back, right? A lot of things have been said about this Lions hangover, and I don't really put too much stock into that, because a lot of those teams, the first three teams that they played, where that stat really comes from, first few teams, they had significant injuries that kind of also affected them the following week. Seattle won this week after getting blown out by them, right? So it just goes to show that, if we go back in there with we're going to be tired, we're going to be banged up. If we go on there with good intensity, and we can still out hustle them, our talent should overcome their banged up roster. Cooper Kupp might be back, but is he going to be on a snap count? Is he going to be a decoy? A lot of things are going to be a factor, but the way that we've been playing, I don't imagine it's going to be a blowout game by the Rams or anything like that. I feel like it's going to be slightly closer than people think. Ideally, what I would like to see, I would just like a quick bounce back game. I'd love to see them blow the Rams out, kind of come back with a statement win and say, you know what, we took our lumps, we hung in there, we couldn't come away with the win, but we're going to still continue to go with our game plan and win decisively. And I think that moving forward, I think the Vikings are going to continue to show improvement in the second half. I feel like we're going to become more consistent. And instead of getting multiple field goals in the second half, maybe we're going to start getting more touchdowns. And because eventually, going into the playoffs, I want to have more touchdowns than field goals in the second half. And I want to be able to continue to answer these questions like, what are we going to do when we play from behind? What are we going to do when we get punched in the mouth? What happens when Sam Darnold plays, has an off game, right? I want the same outcome to be the same. The Vikings came together as a team. They leaned on each other when other aspects of the team were struggling, and because they were a better team, they were able to win those games. And then going forward, when we do play teams that we should handle, I want us to beat them handedly, so that one, we can practice winning, playing with. Because I feel like we start to struggle when we get more than a 10-point lead, and then when we're blowing teams out, right? I don't want that to be a factor. I want them to practice what that's like and not go into this vanilla play calling thing where Brian Flores just refuses to do any disguises or anything, and he just kind of resembles prevent defense, because in my opinion, prevent defense prevents you from winning a lot of the times. So I think going forward, there's nothing to worry about. We have the easiest stretch. There is a little bit of a concern with this game being at a short week, and just the nature of the game. Matthew Stafford is a gunslinger. You can't put it past him. He can easily win a game with very little. I remember watching Matthew Stafford do that as a Lion, right? So I can imagine him still having some of that moxie and some of that going forward. or I think maybe touch back on what else is there? What else is there to think? Oh, while I think, let me get caught up with the chat one. Oh, holy crap! That can't be right. There's 24 people. Either way, thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out. Please like and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me as I'm, just about a month into this Vikings creation journey, and I really do appreciate you, sitting back and taking my takes in. And yeah, let's see here. And Oops says that Vikings 34-17. I would really much like to see something like that. If I'm gonna, maybe we can transition into a little bit of a prediction of how I see the game rolling, right? While maybe if anybody has a question, feel free to throw it in the chat, and maybe I'll give you guys my perspective on it. I'm not very much like I watch a ton of football games, basically every game and multiple times a week. But sorry about that. Anyways, yeah, and so I have a different perspective. I'm not much of I'm going to bring you every single play and be hands down the best analytics or statistics guy. I do look at them and I kind of put them into my calculations or my forecasting. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of guys out there that do that really, really well, and I don't want to compete where I am not my strength. But what I can do, my background, being a personal trainer and then in school, going to school for marketing, it allows me to research really well and kind of interpret data in a different way, and as a result, I have maybe a different perspective than most. So I really appreciate you hanging out and taking it all in. Are the Vikings really going to trade for Stafford, asks Hendo. I honestly, the thing is that it's perfect clickbait because it's very plausible and it makes a lot of sense. And on top of that, there's another factor that Kwesi is very aggressive. Remember 2 years ago, out of nowhere, we traded for Hawkinson. So like, there's that factor where like, well, maybe Kwesi is ready to do something crazy like that. Maybe this is true. I honestly think, if I'm thinking conventionally, I'm trying to think, when was the last time a team was this dominant, coming off a decent streak or clearly on the path to the playoffs, that they just made a massive trade like that for a quarterback? I don't know if that's ever happened. Do you guys know in the chat? Because like, I just don't remember that ever being a thing. So I don't, that's why like when I think about conventionally, I just don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, would I be open to it? Like if it happened and I just had to digest it after the fact, I'd probably end up being okay with it. But at the same time, I'm extremely happy with what Sam's done. I have zero concerns with him. I know that regardless of what situation we're in late in the season, as well as in the playoffs, we are going to have a chance to win the game. And as a fan, what more could you want? We're not the Patriots, 4 or 5 years into their dynasty where they're so good and almost perfect in their situational football, and they're just that dominant. We're not there yet. And so I'm not going to expect that sort of stuff, but I really like what we're seeing. I think Sam's got the and more than enough that what we need. This defense is the backbone and what we really rely on, and a chance and more than an opportunity is more than a lot of teams get. And these last 6 games or 5 games, the last 6 games, every single game has given us situations in which we have those lessons learned are those lessons learned are lessons that a lot of teams spend a lot of time in the playoffs learning, right? So I don't want to go into the playoffs and lose and lose to it like we did against the Lions and go, man, we got to wait till next year to work that out. I'd rather that type of game happen when it did, so that we can work on it, and so that next time that type of game happens, we're better prepared for it, and maybe we can win that game. And then when we are in the Super Bowl or in the NFC title game or in a really crazy wild card game that didn't go right, we have the ability to turn it around and win. So I guess that's my take on that. And I feel like the Vikings are going to win this game, probably somewhere like 24-14. A convincing win, but because the big focus, because the big focus is that because of the short week, that those first quarter, we might be a little bit rusty. I don't know. I relate it to, like, you know, when you try like a new workout and all of a sudden your whole body is sore, and the next time you got to go to the gym, you're just like, oh man, this sucks, because you're still kind of sore from that previous workout. I feel like the Vikings are going to deal with that at the beginning of the game. There might not be so sharp and explosive to the ball. It might seem a little bit sluggish. And then as the body works up, as the adrenaline starts pumping, I think we start rolling and we start seeing much of the exact same thing that we've seen the entire year. And we end up in a situation where we end up running out the clock, using time management well, and we just are in control the entire way. It is scary to have Matthew Stafford on the other side of the field, regardless of who he has to throw to, because he's just really talented, right? So, what are you guys' predictions on the game? Man, Randall Cunningham would be a hell of an addition right now. You imagine bringing the man in just to replace Sam with, because like one thing that another thing I forgot with that trade rumor, right? If they swing and miss, right? Let's say it is 100% true, right? What does that say to Sam, right? Like, how does that affect his confidence going forward, right? Like, does now all of a sudden, does that affect his mindset in a certain way? I know there's been reports prior to the season. A big reason that Sam Darnold chose the Vikings is in Kwesi's pitch was, hey, we're going to make you the next Baker Mayfield. You come here, you play well, you play mistake-free football, and you do baseline, middle of the pack, we're going to get you a contract. So you're going to get a contract somewhere else based on what you do this year, right? So like, there's a little bit of that train of thought that, like, well, he might be okay with it, like, but like at the same time, why would you put that negative juju on the locker room? This chemistry seems like I don't know if you guys watch the Vikings, like Tell Us with Metellus, or like their shorts and whatnot. They seem like they're just so like tightly knit. Why would they do something like that drastic to put that kind of doubt, or that kind of, maybe not even doubt, but just kind of that kind of situation in the locker room's head that kind of distracts them from what we're doing, right? So it doesn't really make too much sense to me, and it is quite weird. But what's most important is that we've gotten we're at 5-1 week to week. We've shown continued progress. Every question, every goalpost that has been put up in front of us, we've knocked down. First, it was wait till you play the San Francisco 49ers, a good team. We beat them, even though we shot ourselves in the foot and let them hang in the game, right? That was, they're banged up. They didn't have CMC, and the Texans are going to come in. CJ Stroud, he's so good under pressure. He's one of the best. What happened? We completely broke that team that game, and they didn't even give the opportunity to CJ Stroud to figure out how to play against this offense, and they pulled them in the fourth. Against the Packers, we started out super strong and put a beating to them and made them look pedestrian, right? We took advantage of every opportunity that we had, and in the second half, I don't know, man, like the playing from ahead, whatever, we're just not accustomed to winning, We really have a lot to learn when it comes to winning. We showed that even when things go wrong or when we have a bad game, we still win. The next question was like, what happens when Sam Darnold struggles? Because, it's pumpkin watch apparently, right? The Lions are coming in and they're smashing the pumpkin, right? They're going to run away with it. They put up 40 points the last 2 weeks in a row. They're about to make history and throw 40 on the Vikings, and the Vikings are going to get blown out, and it was a fun ride while it lasted. But we hung with them, and when most people thought the game was over, the Vikings mounted a comeback, and we almost won the game, right? All situations and all things that show that this Vikings team is ready for any adversity, and gives me all the confidence in the world moving forward. And again, my prediction, 24-14. I don't think, what's funny to me is that we've just shown flashes to the world of what this team is and what it's becoming. Like, the rest is still to come. JJ McCarthy hasn't taken a snap yet. This defense hasn't evolved. All the lessons learned by Brian Flores from Ben Johnson, not only did he have a great game playing against us and really put the pressure like no other offensive coordinator has so far, those were a lot of lessons that he was teaching Brian Flores. And guess what happens when like anybody, like when we get put into situations, think about it yourself in the way where you've been in a situation where something happens and then it doesn't go the way that you planned it. And then that hiccup happens and then you learn. And the next time you have to do that same thing, you account for what happened the last time and you come up with a better game plan. And all that is what's going to happen this year. And we're all doing that in real time, week to week, preparing for a deep playoff run, because this team is deep. We have depth, we have generational talents in JJ, we have top tier weapons in Hawkinson, Addison, Aaron Jones. We have defensive studs. We have a secondary that is this like incredible organism that all of them can play safety, but sometimes they move in and play linebacker, and sometimes they drop into coverage and play corner, and it's incredible to see. And so I'm extremely happy, and I'm extremely excited for the future. And any other questions? I'm just going to catch up here, Derek. I really appreciate you guys all for hanging out with me. Please like and subscribe. I will definitely be coming with I like to do a bold predictions video in the form of a crystal ball reading. And then this will serve as my preview, because normally it comes out Friday right before the game, but since we're playing Thursday, I decided to do it now on top of my power ranking. So stay tuned for those. And if there's any other questions, feel free to hit me up in the chat right now. I really appreciate you guys hanging out. Like, wow, it's been 51 minutes and I can't believe I've been talking for this long. Well, it's probably like 12:45 because I had the starting soon scream. And if you guys have any feedback for me as well, leave that in the comments or in the chat, because I'm extremely new to this. I first started with like scripted content because I didn't really have a webcam or anything set up just yet. And so now I'm kind of transitioning into this. And then, let me know, do you guys like having a little bit more of the statistics and the more like the analytics and the X's and O's, as well as my like outside of the box thinking? I don't think I'm ever going to give you the same take as what anything that you're going to see on mainstream media, because I just don't think like them. It's funny, I think of my takes and I'm like, oh, and then I hear everybody else's takes and I'm like, how did you guys see that, right? So hopefully you guys find that entertaining, or maybe comforting, or maybe a different perspective, helps you guys feel confident about our Minnesota Vikings going forward. And yeah, man, I really appreciate you for tuning in to this episode of Purple and Gold Bars. Yeah, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys on the next one.